Your reaction, Shaq?
I find what Zlatan Ibrahimovic said striking on a number of levels. We're a week out from Zlatan making those comments to Romelu Lukaku with the Milan derby and the fallout as a result. And as LeBron James rightly points out, Zlatan, in his own autobiography, made mention of the racist abuse that he feels he was subject to in Sweden. So I'm not sure how or why he turns this around some years later and inexplicably drags LeBron James into it. At the same time, as much as we're talking about LeBron James, and the debate will rage on as to whether he's one of the best basketball players to ever strap on a pair of shoes, we're talking about a man who went back to his home community in Akron, Ohio, and opened the I Promise School that he mentioned, that caters to 300 kids from the lower socioeconomic status, providing for them an employment for their parents. So I can sit here and just as easily point out, in my mind, that I think LeBron is a far better man, a far better advocate for the black community, a far better philanthropist, a far better standard bearer for equality than he is a basketballer. So if you want to say stick to what you're good at, I will say very much LeBron James is doing what he's good at in providing for these communities that are voiceless and disenfranchised, and his side gig is basketball. By that token, I just don't understand the position that Zlatan takes in criticizing somebody using a status or a podium that they've earned. I really don't understand why it is people feel that if you come from certain communities and you are successful in sport, and you see the same criticism to Marcus Rashford and Raheem Sterling in our sport, in soccer, in football, that you are all of a sudden, because you have realized the success in your sport, you turn your back on the communities from where you came. And you are supposed to do everything in your power to disenfranchise yourself from those communities. When what you're seeing from athletes today in particular is no. They are keeping their focus very much on those communities and helping to uplift the next generation of LeBron James or Raheem Sterling or Marcus Rashfords. And that for me is worth applauding now until they stop doing their work. The example they continue to set to all of us, I think is admirable. Why you criticize that is simply beyond me, and I'd like to use stronger language to describe Zlatan's current position on that.
Gab, what struck me through this was that it wasn't an investigative journalist looking for headlines. It was a softball question that Zlatan turned into a headline.
Yeah, these are the mysteries that go on in Zlatan's mind. You know, he's been dealing with the media for a long time. It was an absolute softball, as you said. I imagine the journalist was expecting him to maybe go back and make some joke about, you know, how LA had a king and now they have an emperor, and ha ha ha, wasn't it funny when he went to MLS? And instead he took it in a completely different direction. Shaka, I think, very eloquently pointed out why it's absolute nonsense. In fact, LeBron as well, saying that, like, he's talking about stuff that he knows about. He's not going off into politics saying, well, I think our monetary policy is incorrect, or, you know, or our trade relationship with Japan. No, he's talking about something specifically that he's heavily invested in, that he's heavily involved in, that he has experienced. So why Zlatan would go off in this direction, I genuinely don't know. I imagine he's got PR people. I don't imagine that he ever listens to them very much. I chalk it up to a bad day at the office, and I hope that, you know, he comes out and either clarifies this or maybe reaches out to LeBron directly and kind of educates himself a little bit about this, because, yeah, this went down like a lead balloon.
Yeah, I was going to say, Matteo, how has this been received in Italy?
Well, probably not with the same amount of headlines that you're seeing here. It did have a feature on Gazzetta, which is the #1 Italian media outlet, but it seems like this whole shtick of Zlatan Ibrahimovic now, it's becoming a little bit tiresome. Let's just call it how it is. What he said was tone deaf. Read the room. It was ignorant. He has no idea what he's talking about or what LeBron is doing, which is so much greater than just politics. And I thought LeBron laid it out pretty interestingly, because if you look back at that ESPN article, which describes exactly what Zlatan is talking about, that his last name isn't Svensson, and in Sweden he received racism that prevented him from reaching maybe the heights that he thought he would. So they're almost arguing about the same exact thing, but Zlatan's comments are completely out of touch and completely out of base. And honestly, he looks like the one that should just stick to what he knows about, because he knows nothing about what LeBron is trying to teach and the good that he's trying to do in this country. And, you know, with the arrogance, and I know that it's this whole character that Zlatan has, and a lot of it, okay, haha, it's funny, you're lying, you're this demigod figure, that's great. But when you start talking about these sorts of things that have real life implications, it stops being funny. And I think that a lot of people lost a bit of respect for Zlatan Ibrahimovic in the last few days. And one more thing, I think Milan maybe should put out a statement just saying that they support what LeBron James is fighting for, and that they don't back the comments of Ibrahimovic, who, by the way, is just going to go off the Sanremo, an Italian festival, during this crisis that they're currently having.
Yeah, this is the point, and I know, Gab, this was something that you wanted to bring up. When we take a look at his schedule this week, you see him on Thursday going to the Sanremo Music Festival.
Yeah, and supposedly he's going to perform with Sinisa Mihajlovic, a duet. This is a commitment that he made before he extended his contract with Milan. And supposedly Milan didn't know about it because there was an NDA. Now it's come out. You know what? All of this is great, but yeah, I think you should show a little bit of responsibility and a bit of leadership. Now, it's a couple hours away. People have tried to deconstruct his movement, but there's no question. I mean, you know, most likely he's going to have to train by himself on certain days. It's not good, and I think he can weather the storm of pulling out. And you know, in a couple of years, if he retires, he wants to go back to Sanremo and sing, and maybe even, you know, go and act Zlatan. I'm sure they'll happily have him back. But this seems entirely unnecessary and kind of pig-headed to me as well.
Just going back to the LeBron...
And there's COVID too, by the way.
Yeah, indeed. Just going back to those LeBron comments, Jürgen, what did you make of it all?
Well, I think that, you know, in general, I mean, athletes or, you know, people in the sporting world or or artists, you know, they have the same responsibility like anybody else out there in the communities. You know, they have to speak up. They have to say what is right and wrong. And it's really important. And I think LeBron does that in a fantastic way over the last years, and makes it clear that there are many things are not okay. We should deal with them. We should discuss them. So the social responsibility of all of us being in the sporting world is there. You know, some make it a little bit smaller and some make it a bit bigger. Some make it more in the background, and some more like LeBron is really good speaking up and telling people his thoughts and asking for change. And this is very important. And that's when we in Germany, I remember when I played, they always wanted you to become the role model, to be as perfect as possible. And I always made it clear, nobody's perfect. We all make mistakes, you know. There's not the 100% person, but we have a social responsibility. We have to look after the people within our community, and we have to make the statements the way, you know, for making sure that the future is getting better and is working the right way. You know, I'm on a board since 30 years of it's called kind of To Learn for the Future, that makes sure that the World War II crimes and disasters are not forgotten. What happened there? It was a big burden on Germany, and it's still a big burden on Germany. You know, I built orphanage homes in Eastern Europe, and I have 2 boys and girls clubs in Germany and brought them up. But everyone is responsible in his own little world to make sure that there's a respectful environment out there, that people, you know, treat each other correctly and work hard, that we have a good future, all of us. So I think it's just in our own small world, our responsibility to do that, and LeBron is doing a great job of that.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN Plus.